The silence in space was broken by a desperate signal that crossed the darkness between stars. In the Kepler 442 system, 12 massive ships hung motionless in the void. They were beautiful vessels, each one longer than 10 city blocks and covered in smooth metal that seemed to glow with its own light. But these ships were dying. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, his forearms crossed as he stared at the dead screens around him. His people, the Zephyrians, had built these ships with technology that could bend space and time. They could travel between stars in days instead of years. They could create matter from energy and heal wounds that would kill other beings. But now all of that meant nothing. The quantum drives that powered their fleet had failed 3 days ago. One moment they were traveling through hyperspace toward a new world. The next moment they were trapped in normal space with engines that would never work again. 50,000 Zephyrians filled the 12 ships. They were refugees from a dying planet, carrying everything they owned and everyone they loved. Veltar looked at the status reports flowing across his personal display. Food supplies would last 2 more weeks. The air recycling systems were working, but barely. The children were getting sick from the stress and poor nutrition. Some of the older Zephyrians had already died from the shock of being stranded, so far from any help. His people had expected to reach their new colony world in 5 more days. Instead, they were stuck in an empty system with nothing but a few dead planets and asteroid belts. No one would come looking for them here. No one even knew they existed. 300 light-years away, Captain Jake Morrison was having a much better day. His ship, the UES Endeavour, was on a routine exploration mission. The Endeavour was not impressive compared to alien technology. It was only 200 meters long, built from steel and ceramic composites. Its fusion reactors were loud and took up too much space. Its computer systems were simple compared to what advanced civilizations might build. But Jake Morrison loved his ship and his crew of 80 humans. They had been exploring space for 6 months, mapping new systems and looking for signs of life. So far, they had found plenty of dead worlds and interesting rocks, but nothing that moved or thought or built cities. Jake was reading reports in his small captain's quarters when his communications officer called him to the bridge. Danny Price was young and excited about everything they discovered. He had been monitoring radio signals from nearby systems, hoping to find something unusual. "Captain, you need to hear this," Danny said as Jake walked onto the bridge. "I'm picking up a signal from the Kepler 442 system. It's not natural, sir. Someone is broadcasting a distress call." Jake felt his heart speed up. First contact with alien life was something every human dreamed about, but it was also terrifying. "Are you sure it's artificial?" "Yes, sir. The signal is using mathematical patterns that show intelligence. And sir, it's using the universal distress codes that we put in all our deep space probes. Someone is asking for help." Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her workstation. She was the ship's expert on alien life, though she had never actually seen any. "Captain, if someone is using our distress codes, they either learned them from our probes, or they developed the same mathematical concepts independently. Either way, they're smart enough to communicate." Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks joined the conversation. He was older than most of the crew and had worked on starships for 20 years. "Sir, if they're in distress, their technology might be more advanced than ours. We could be walking into a trap." Jake thought about it for a long moment. The smart thing would be to report the signal to Earth and wait for instructions. But that would take months. If someone was really in trouble, they might be dead by then. "Danny, how far away is the signal?" 2 days at maximum burn, sir." "And how strong is it?" "Very strong, Captain. Whatever is sending it has a lot of power behind." Jake made his decision. "Set course for Kepler 442, full speed." The bridge was quiet for a moment. Everyone knew they were about to make history. First contact with alien life would change everything for humanity, but it might also be the last thing they ever did. As the Endeavour turned toward the distant system, Dr. Carter began preparing her equipment. She had studied every theory about alien life, but theories were different from reality. She wondered what these beings looked like, how they thought, and whether they would see humans as friends or enemies. Ryan Brooks was already planning what help they might be able to offer. The Endeavour carried industrial fabricators, medical supplies, and enough food for months. They were equipped for long exploration missions, which meant they could survive in space for a long time. Maybe that would be enough to help whoever was in trouble. 2 days later, the Endeavour dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw through their telescopes took their breath away. 12 enormous ships hung in space near the system's fourth planet. The ships were clearly artificial, but they looked like nothing humans had ever built. They were smooth and organic, like they had been grown instead of constructed. "My God," whispered Dr. Carter. "They're beautiful." Captain Morrison stared at the alien fleet on his main screen. Each ship was at least 5 times larger than the Endeavour. If these aliens wanted to destroy his ship, they could do it easily. But the distress signal was still broadcasting, stronger than ever. "Danny, can you translate any of their language?" "I'm trying, sir. The signal contains mathematical concepts and what might be pictures. Give me a few more minutes." Jake knew that the next few hours would determine the future of both species. He was about to make contact with beings from another world. Everything depended on whether they could trust each other. The alien ships waited silently in the distance, their hulls reflecting the light of the distant star. Inside those ships, 50,000 beings waited to see if the small human vessel would help them or destroy them. Neither species knew it yet, but they were about to discover that kindness could bridge any gap between worlds. The first words between two species came through as musical sounds that made no sense to human ears. Danny Price worked at his station for 3 hours, trying to make the alien language into something Captain Morrison could understand. The sounds were like singing mixed with the noise of wind chimes. "I think I have something, Captain," Danny said finally. "Their computers are trying to learn our language the same way we're trying to learn theirs. They're sending mathematical concepts, mixed with what might be words." On the main screen, patterns of light flashed in sequences. Dr. Carter watched them carefully. Those patterns repeat every few minutes. "I think they're trying to establish basic communication." Jake Morrison took a deep breath. He was about to speak the first words from humanity to another intelligent species. "Danny, send this message. Use simple math and basic concepts. Tell them we received their distress call and we want to help." The message went out into space at the speed of light. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Then the alien ships began to move. Not toward the Endeavour, but into a defensive formation. The 12 vessels arranged themselves in a pattern that clearly showed they were ready to fight. "They're scared of us," Dr. Carter said quietly. "Think about it from their point of view. They're stranded and helpless, and suddenly a strange ship appears. They don't know if we're here to help or to attack them." Ryan Brooks checked his instruments. "Captain, those ships have weapon systems that could destroy us in seconds. The energy readings are off the charts, but they're not powering up their weapons. They're just being careful." Jake nodded. "Send another message, Danny. Tell them we're alone. Tell them our ship is small and we have no weapons that could hurt them. Tell them we only want to help." This time, the response came faster. The musical sounds were different now, less harsh and more like actual singing. Danny worked to translate the message. "Sir, I think they're asking who we are and why we want to help them." The translation is rough, but they seem confused about our motives. "Confused about wanting to help?" Jake asked. "What's confusing about that?" Dr. Carter had been thinking about alien psychology during the long journey to this system. "Captain, what if their species doesn't help strangers? What if they expect every interaction to be a trade or a fight? Our offer to help for nothing might seem impossible to them." The alien fleet held its defensive position while more messages flew back and forth. Slowly, Danny and the alien computers began to understand each other better. The musical language started to make sense in small pieces. Commander Veltar stood on his bridge, listening to his communications officer translate the human messages. The small alien ship claimed to want nothing but to offer help. In all of Zephyrian history, no spacefaring race had ever made such an offer. "Commander," said his science officer, "the aliens call themselves humans. Their ship is primitive, but their language shows intelligence. They say they want to send representatives to our ships to assess our needs." Veltar's 4 arms moved in the Zephyrian gesture for confusion. "They want to board our ships? That Makes no sense. They could learn our technology and use it against us. Sir, their ship is too small to threaten us, and our weapons are not working anyway. If they wanted to attack us, they would have done it already. The Zephyrian commander looked at the reports from his fleet. More children were getting sick. The food supplies were running lower each day. His people were dying slowly and he had no way to save them. Maybe these humans were the answer to his prayers. Tell them they may send 2 representatives to my ship, but they will be watched carefully. On the Endeavor, Captain Morrison chose his team for the first face-to-face meeting with aliens. Lieutenant Commander Amy Stone was his best officer, calm under pressure and good at solving problems. Dr. Carter would come too, since she knew more about alien life than anyone else on the ship. The shuttle flight to the alien vessel took 30 minutes. Amy piloted the small craft toward the lead ship, which was enormous up close. The hull was smooth and seemed to flow like liquid metal. There were no visible weapons or engines, just graceful curves that looked more like art than technology. "Lisa, are you recording everything?" Amy asked as they approached a bay that opened to receive them. "Every detail," Dr. Carter replied. "This is the most important moment in human history." The shuttle bay was filled with air that humans could breathe, though it smelled like flowers and something metallic. Gravity was slightly heavier than Earth normal. As they stepped out of their shuttle, 3 aliens approached them. Dr. Carter tried not to stare, but the Zephyrians were unlike anything she had imagined. They were tall, nearly 3 meters high, with 4 arms and skin that changed color like a mood ring. Their faces were somewhat humanoid, but with large eyes that held intelligence and sadness. Commander Veltar spoke through a translation device that turned his musical language into English words. "I am Veltar, leader of this fleet. You claim to want to help us. Why?" Amy Stone stepped forward. "Commander, my name is Amy Stone. This is Dr. Lisa Carter. We help because your people are in trouble. That's reason enough." The alien commander's skin shifted to a deep blue color. Dr. Carter guessed this might indicate surprise or confusion. "You want nothing in return?" Veltar asked. "Nothing," Amy confirmed. "We help because it's the right thing to do." Dr. Carter opened her medical bag and pulled out basic supplies. "Commander, we brought medicine and food supplements. Our captain thought your children might need them." For the first time since the fleet had been stranded, Veltar felt something like hope. These strange small beings were offering help to people they had never met, asking for nothing in exchange. It was a concept so foreign to Zephyrian culture that he almost couldn't accept it. But as he looked at the medicine in the human doctor's hands, he thought of the sick children throughout his fleet. Maybe these humans were different from every other species in the galaxy. Maybe they could be trusted. "Dr. Carter," he said carefully, "would you be willing to help our medical staff treat the young ones who are suffering?" Lisa Carter smiled, the first human smile a Zephyrian had ever seen. "Commander, I would be honored to help save your children." Dr. Lisa Carter had never imagined she would be treating alien children, but here she was in the medical bay of a Zephyrian ship, working alongside beings from another world. The young Zephyrians were small versions of the adults, with the same 4 arms and color-changing skin. When they were healthy, their skin showed bright yellows and greens. Now most of them displayed dull grays and browns. The lead Zephyrian doctor was named Kethma. She had been working without rest for days, trying to keep the children alive with failing medical equipment. When Lisa offered human medicines, Kethma was doubtful but desperate enough to try anything. "Your medicines are designed for your species," Kethma said through the translation device. "How can they help our young ones?" Lisa had been studying Zephyrian biology since arriving on the ship. "Our blood carries oxygen the same way yours does. Our children need the same basic nutrients for growth. The medicines might work differently, but the principles are the same." The first test was with a young Zephyrian named Kesiva, who was too weak to lift her head. Lisa gave her a small dose of human vitamins and minerals. Within an hour, the child's skin began to show tiny flecks of yellow. By the end of the day, she was sitting up and asking for food. Word of the successful treatment spread through the fleet quickly. More human medical supplies were transferred from the Endeavor. Dr. Carter worked 18-hour days, moving from ship to ship and teaching Zephyrian medical staff how to use human medicine safely. While the medical crisis was being addressed, Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks was facing a much bigger problem. He stood in the main engineering section of the Zephyrian flagship, staring at technology that was far beyond anything humans had built. The quantum drives were works of art, but they were completely dead. "Explain to me what happened," Ryan said. To the chief Zephyrian engineer, a being named Mortek who had 6 arms instead of the usual 4, Mortek's skin showed deep purple, which Ryan had learned meant frustration. The quantum containment field collapsed during hyperspace transit. When that happened, the exotic matter that powers our drives was released into normal space. It simply vanished. Without exotic matter, we cannot restart the drives. Ryan looked at the beautiful but useless machinery. "Can you make more exotic matter?" "Yes, but it requires a stable power source that can operate for many weeks. Our backup power systems are failing. In 3 days, we will have no power at all." Ryan thought about this problem for hours. He couldn't fix the alien technology, but maybe he didn't need to. Human engineers were good at finding simple solutions to complex problems. "Mortek, what if we don't fix your quantum drives? What if we give you a different way to travel?" The alien engineer's skin shifted to bright orange, which meant surprise. "Your ships cannot carry our people, you are too small." "Not carry you," Ryan explained. "Power you. What if we connect our fusion reactors to your ships? Would that give you enough power to make new exotic matter?" Mortek was quiet for a long time, his skin cycling through several colors as he thought. "It might work. But your power systems are so different from ours. The connection would be permanent. Your technology would become part of our ships forever." Ryan grinned. "That's fine with us." Meanwhile, Communications Officer Danny Price was making his own breakthrough. He had been working with a young Zephyrian named Telasi to improve the translation systems. Telasi was curious about human culture and asked many questions about Earth. "Your people live on only one world?" Telasi asked in amazement. "That's right. We're just starting to explore space. Your people have been traveling between stars for thousands of years. But you came to help us anyway, even though we are strangers from far away." Danny had been thinking about this question since first contact. "Telasi, on Earth we have a saying. It means that all intelligent beings are part of the same family, even if they come from different worlds." Telasi's skin showed the bright blue that meant joy. "I wish to learn more about your Earth and your ideas about family." Through these conversations, Danny learned that the Zephyrian fleet carried more than just refugees. Among the 50,000 beings were scientists, artists, musicians, and teachers. They had brought libraries of knowledge, works of art, and the complete history of their civilization. They were not just running from a dying world, they were carrying the future of their species. Dr. Kevin Martinez, the Endeavor's physicist, was having the most interesting conversations of his career. He worked with Zephyrian scientists to understand why their quantum drives had failed. The aliens knew far more about advanced physics than humans did, but they approached problems in a completely different way. "You think about quantum mechanics, backwards from us," Kevin explained to Chief Scientist Vexitara. "We start with simple principles and build up to complex ones. You start with complex unified theories and work down to specifics." Vexitara's skin showed the green of curiosity. "And this different approach helps you see problems we miss?" "Maybe. Your quantum containment failed because of a resonance cascade. We've seen similar problems in our fusion reactors, but on a much smaller scale. The solution is to add dampening fields that interrupt the cascade before it can build up. Such simple dampening fields would be crude and inefficient. But they would work," Kevin pointed out. "Sometimes crude and simple is better than elegant and fragile." Commander Rachel Torres had the job of coordinating all the supply transfers between human and alien ships. Her shuttles flew constantly between the Endeavor and the 12 Zephyrian vessels, carrying food, medicine, and equipment. Rachel had been a logistics officer in the Earth military before joining the Exploration Service. She knew how to move supplies efficiently and keep track of complex operations. But this was the biggest challenge of her career. "Captain," she reported to Jake Morrison, "we're using our supplies faster than planned. If we keep this up, we'll run short of food in 2 weeks. Jake nodded. Keep giving them what they need, Rachel. We'll figure out the rest later. Rachel smiled. This was exactly the answer she had expected from Captain Morrison. The man would give away his last meal to help someone in need. As the days passed, humans and Zephyrians worked together more closely. The language barriers became smaller. Trust grew stronger. Both species began to realize they were witnessing something remarkable. Two completely different civilizations coming together in friendship rather than conflict. The real breakthrough came when Ryan Brooks and Mortek successfully connected a human fusion reactor to the main Zephyrian ship. The alien vessel's lights came back on for the first time in a week. Throughout the fleet, Zephyrians sang in celebration while humans cheered and clapped. But the work was just beginning. They had solved the power problem, but the alien ships still needed extensive repairs before they could travel safely to a new home. 3 weeks had passed since first contact, and the space around the Zephyrian fleet looked like the busiest construction site in the galaxy. Human shuttles moved constantly between ships, carrying workers and supplies. On the hulls of the great alien vessels, tiny figures in spacesuits worked alongside beings in environmental suits designed for completely different bodies. Technical Sergeant Carlos Rodriguez floated outside the third Zephyrian ship, teaching an alien engineer how to use a human welding torch. The alien, whose name was Polandre, had been trying to repair a damaged hull section with Zephyrian tools that no longer worked properly. You have to move the torch slowly, Carlos explained over the radio. Human tools are not as precise as yours, but they are reliable. They work the same way every time. Polandre's 4 arms made the work easier once he learned the technique. Your tools are simple, but they accomplish what our advanced equipment cannot. There is wisdom in simplicity. Carlos smiled inside his helmet. He had been a welder for 15 years and had never thought of his work as wise. But here he was, teaching aliens how to fix starships with tools that were probably older than some of the humans on his crew. Inside the ships, other bonds were forming. Dr. Elena Vasquez had come aboard as part of the medical team, but she quickly realized that many Zephyrians needed help with more than just physical problems. The stress of being stranded so far from home had affected everyone in the fleet. Elena worked with Zephyrian counselors to help refugees deal with their fear and sadness. Language was still a barrier, but emotions were universal. When a Zephyrian parent cried over a sick child, Elena understood completely. When young Zephyrians showed excitement about the human visitors, she recognized the same curiosity she saw in human children. Dr. Vasquez, said Myrthala, a Zephyrian counselor, your methods for treating emotional distress are very different from ours. You encourage people to talk about their feelings directly. We have always used meditation and color singing. Maybe we can combine both methods, Elena suggested. Talking and singing together might help people more than either one alone. The idea worked better than anyone expected. Soon, mixed groups of humans and Zephyrians were holding therapy sessions where people shared their worries in words, while others responded with the musical harmonies that Zephyrians used to show support and understanding. Navigator. Ben Clark was having the time of his life working with Zephyrian stellar cartographers. The aliens had maps of thousands of star systems, many of which humans had never seen. Ben's job was to help find suitable worlds where the Zephyrian fleet could establish a new colony. This system here, Ben pointed to a display showing a star with several planets. We surveyed it 2 years ago. The third planet has water and an atmosphere. It might work for your people. Chief cartographer Vescala studied the human data carefully. The gravity is stronger than our homeworld, but we can adapt. The atmospheric composition is acceptable. But tell me, do your people claim this world? Ben shook his head. We explore, but we don't claim planets that we can't use. If your people can live there safely, it should be yours. Vescala's skin shifted to the deep blue of amazement. You would give us an entire world? What do you want in return? Nothing, Ben said simply. There are billions of stars in the galaxy. There's room for everyone. The biggest breakthrough came when Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks and his Zephyrian counterpart Mortek solved the main power problem. They had successfully connected human fusion reactors to all 12 alien ships, but the quantum drives still needed exotic matter to function. The exotic matter production requires precise timing, Mortek explained as they worked in the main engineering bay. The magnetic fields must pulse in exactly the right sequence or the process fails. Ryan studied the alien equipment carefully. Your computers that control the timing were damaged in the original failure. But what if we use human computers to control the sequence? Human computers are too slow for quantum field manipulation, Mortek replied. Individually, yes. But what if we link 50 human computers together? We can make them work as one big computer that might be fast enough. The idea required connecting computer systems from both species that had never been designed to work together. Danny Price and several Zephyrian technicians spent days writing translation programs that would let human computers understand alien hardware. The test came on a Tuesday morning, ship time. Every human on the Endeavour held their breath as the linked computer system attempted to create exotic matter for the first time. The process required perfect timing measured in nanoseconds. The first attempt failed. The second attempt failed. On the third try, something remarkable happened. A tiny amount of exotic matter appeared in the containment field and remained stable. It works, Ryan shouted over the radio to Captain Morrison. We can make exotic matter. It's slow, but it works. The celebration was heard throughout both fleets. Humans cheered and Zephyrians sang their joy in harmonious choruses that made the ship hulls vibrate. For the first time since being stranded, the aliens had real hope of completing their journey. But the process was slow. Creating enough exotic matter to power one ship would take 2 weeks. Powering all 12 ships would take months. The Zephyrians had been stranded for almost a month already, and some of the older refugees were beginning to lose hope. Dr. Carter noticed the problem during her daily medical rounds. Commander Veltar, some of your people are getting sick from depression. They don't believe they will ever reach their new home. Veltar's skin showed the gray of sadness. Many of us have given up hope before. Our homeworld died slowly over many years. We watched our sun grow dim and our oceans freeze. Some of my people think we are cursed to wander forever. Lisa thought about this for a moment. What if we showed them that humans plan to stay until every ship is repaired? What if Captain Morrison promised that we won't leave until your entire fleet is safely on its way? That evening, Captain Morrison called a meeting between human and Zephyrian leaders. The gathering took place in the main assembly hall of the flagship, with humans and aliens sitting together in mixed groups. Commander Veltar, people of the Zephyrian fleet, Jake Morrison began. I want to make a promise to you today. The crew of the Endeavour will not leave this system until every one of your ships is repaired and ready to travel. We will stay here for months if necessary. We will share our food and our resources for as long as it takes. The hall was quiet for a long moment. Then Commander Veltar stood up, his skin showing the bright gold of deep respect. Captain Morrison, your promise means more to us than you can know, but we cannot ask you to sacrifice so much for strangers. Jake smiled. Commander, after working together for 3 weeks, we're not strangers anymore. We're friends, and friends help each other no matter how long it takes. The celebration that followed lasted until the early hours of the morning. Both species had realized something important. They were no longer just helping refugees or accepting assistance from aliens. They were building something new together, something that would change both civilizations forever. 4 months after first contact, the last Zephyrian ship completed its quantum drive repairs. The exotic matter that would power their journey to a new home glowed softly in containment fields throughout the fleet. Human fusion reactors hummed, quietly alongside alien technology, a permanent reminder of the friendship between two species. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, watching the alien fleet prepare for departure. The ships looked different now than they had when he first saw them. Human equipment was visible on their hulls, and small human symbols had been painted next to Zephyrian markings as signs of the joint effort that had saved them. Dr. Lisa Carter joined him at the main viewing window. She had spent the last week saying goodbye to Zephyrian friends who had become like family to her. Young Kesava, the first alien child she had treated, was now healthy and strong. The little Zephyrian had given Lisa a small crystal that changed colors like Zephyrian skin, a gift to remember their friendship. "It's hard to watch them go," Lisa said quietly. Jake nodded. "But they have a new world waiting for them. A place where they can build cities and raise children and live in peace. That's what we worked for." Commander Veltar's voice came over. The communication system, translated into English by computers that now perfectly understood both languages. "Captain Morrison, my people are ready to depart. Before we leave, I must speak with you one final time." 20 minutes later, Jake and several of his officers stood in the main assembly hall of the Zephyrian flagship. The room was filled with representatives from both species. Many humans had tears in their eyes, and many Zephyrians showed the deep blue skin color that meant sadness at parting. Commander Veltar stepped forward, his forearms holding a small device that glowed with internal light. "Captain Morrison, you have given my people the greatest gift possible, a future. We wish to offer you something in return." Jake shook his head. "Commander, we've talked about this. We don't want payment for helping people in need." "This is not payment," Veltar replied, his skin showing the gold of deep respect. "This is a gift between friends. This device contains the knowledge we have gathered over thousands of years. Mathematics, science, medicine, art, philosophy. We offer it freely to your people so that humanity might benefit from our friendship." Jake looked at the device, knowing it represented technology that could advance human civilization by centuries. "Commander, that's incredibly generous, but—" "Please," Veltar interrupted gently. "Let us give this gift. Your people showed us that the greatest strength is kindness to strangers. Our knowledge is small payment for such a lesson." Jake accepted the device with shaking hands. "We'll use this knowledge wisely, Commander. And we'll remember the lesson. You've taught us, too, that friendship can exist between any people who choose to trust each other." The formal ceremony that followed established diplomatic relations between humanity and the Zephyrian people. Zephyrian Ambassador Lysandra would remain with the human fleet to begin cultural and scientific exchange programs. Human Ambassador Colonel Peter Hayes would travel with the alien fleet to their new world, carrying Earth's hopes for continued friendship. Lysandra was a young Zephyrian scientist who had worked closely with Dr. Carter during the medical crisis. Her skin showed the bright yellow of excitement as she prepared to see Earth and learn about human civilization. Colonel Hayes was a diplomat who had joined the mission 3 weeks earlier, when Earth Command realized the importance of establishing formal relations with humanity's first alien allies. He was nervous about traveling to an alien world, but also thrilled to be part of history. "Remember," Captain Morrison told Colonel Hayes during their final meeting, "you're not just representing Earth's government. You're representing the idea that different species can be friends and allies." "I understand, sir. I'll do my best to honor the friendship you've built here." As the fleets prepared to separate, Technical Sergeant Carlos Rodriguez floated in space one last time, working alongside Polandre to complete final checks on the hull repairs. The two had become close friends despite coming from different worlds. "Carlos," Polandre said over the radio, "I will miss working with you. Your human tools and human wisdom have taught me much. I'll miss you too, my friend. Take care of those welds. Remember what I taught you about checking for stress fractures. I will remember everything. And Carlos, when your people build ships to travel between stars, remember what we taught you about quantum field manipulation. Perhaps someday we will work together again on projects beyond our current imagination." Dr. Elena Vasquez had spent her final week training Zephyrian counselors in human psychological techniques. The combined therapy methods they had developed were now being used throughout the fleet to help refugees adjust to the idea of starting over on a new world. "The techniques we developed together have helped more people than either of our methods could have helped alone," she told Murthala during their last session. "You've taught me that healing comes in many forms." Navigator Ben Clark presented Chief Cartographer Veskala with detailed maps of every system humans had explored, along with notes about which worlds might be suitable for future colonies. In return, Veskala gave Ben star charts showing safe routes through regions of space that humans had never seen. "The galaxy is vast," Veskala said, "but it will seem smaller now that we know we have friends among the stars." The moment of departure finally arrived. Both fleets powered up their engines and prepared to travel in different directions. The Zephyrian ships would head toward their new home system, a journey of several weeks through hyperspace. The Endeavor would return to Earth with news that would change humanity forever. As the alien ships activated their quantum drives, they began to glow with the same soft light that had amazed the humans months earlier. One by one, they disappeared into hyperspace, carrying 50,000 refugees toward a new life. Captain Morrison watched until the last ship vanished, leaving only empty space and fond memories. Then he turned to his crew, many of whom were crying openly. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "We have a story to tell." The journey home took 2 months. During that time, human scientists began studying the Zephyrian knowledge database, making discoveries that would revolutionize medicine, physics, and engineering. But the most important discovery had already been made during those 4 months in the Kepler 442 system. Humanity had learned that they were not alone in the universe. More importantly, they had learned that the galaxy was big enough for many different peoples to live in peace and friendship. The universe was not a dark and hostile place where species fought for resources and territory. It could be a place where strangers became friends, and where helping others was more important than helping yourself. When the Endeavor reached Earth, Captain Morrison delivered his report to the leaders of humanity. He told them about a stranded alien fleet and a crew of humans who chose to help without asking for anything in return. He told them about friendship that crossed the vastness of space and trust that grew between beings who had never imagined each other's existence. But most importantly, he told them about a lesson that both species had learned together, that kindness was not a weakness, but the greatest strength any civilization could possess. The galaxy was full of wonders waiting to be discovered, and humanity would explore it not as conquerors, but as friends to anyone who needed help. The age of humanity among the stars had begun, and it started with the simple decision to help strangers in need.